All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so I'm Adam. For those of you who may not have had a chance to join our online breakout yesterday, so kind of facilitating in the background, managing the online contingency. Full disclosure, I'm actually in Canada right now, and that's why I'm unable to attend. They won't let me leave my country. But moving on to the questions discussed there, as we sort of answer, I'd love for I think we had Steve and Megan in yesterday, but there's a few of us who weren't there, so I'd love kind of an introduction, who you work with, who you represent, maybe where you're located. But yeah, we have about 25 minutes, hopefully all discussion, but the sooner we get done, we are meant to have a little bit of a break there. But yeah, what do you guys think of some of the conversation at the end there?
This is Julie Foster, the Executive Director of the Ravalli County Economic Development Authority in Hamilton, and I have unfortunately been unable to attend until just this moment. But I'll just say that, my focus is trying to figure out how funding for economic development can be figured out better with a new vision for supporting rural areas. As it's like for us, Missoula County and the resources that they have there, even realizing that no one has enough resources to go around. But some of us, like Ravalli County, have just been left out of any availability of state support for a very long time. And we've figured it out, but we're not all that we can be because it's a capacity thing. And so our county basically funds us, all of it.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Julie. I think, if this is your first exposure to a little bit of the conference, I think I'll maybe do a quick summary of what the online group chatted about yesterday, and I think maybe Steve and Megan, you guys can help me out since you were there and you definitely know more about this than me. But one of the big things that we discussed was representation and communication of essentially what MEDA can do, and just trying to capture the insights of people who are there, who are in it, who are living it, and doing a far better job to clearly communicate to government, access to funds, so on and so forth. So Julie, what you had kind of said there is something that was discussed, I think one portion of it, and so I think we're on the right track there with maybe getting towards prioritizing. I think we need to come up with a few things that, again, we'll share with the rest of the group. Again, I'll need a volunteer, but we're on that trajectory, Julie, with what you started off there.
Thank you, Adam.
Julie, this is Steve. A big part of our discussion with the remote group yesterday also centered around affordable housing and the lack thereof across the state, and how that connects into workforce issues and how those two are interrelated.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously we're struggling with that just like everyone else. In some respects, it goes back a very long time, I think, to like in our community, maybe other rural areas where government leadership for various reasons didn't want to put their minds to working together to be able to construct infrastructure that would have given more access to land that was available for, higher density housing. As a result, our county seat virtually has zero land in it on which to even contemplate, building. So now it's like this thing of you got to do everything at the same time, put in the infrastructure, figure out where you're going to put the housing, what gets annexed, who's going to pay for it. And because we don't have the capacity here to, there's not enough people to go around, that just adds to it. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. You've got one of the more innovative solutions there with the cooperative housing project. And while we didn't talk about that yesterday, I do think that is a possible solution along with land trusts and the public-private partnership that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I agree that the housing co-op or some sort of organization with the business owners. I keep talking about that. Sometimes the crisis really has to, it's really hitting hard. There's no businesses here that haven't had their hours and productivity affected, by fewer workers. But I guess, I don't know, it's still not on fire enough, for them to take time out and just work together to come up with something. That being said, some of our leadership, we're in the process of organizing a meeting here in the near future with like government and some of those, larger employers to talk about it, but that will not be a fast endeavor at all.
So Adam, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I'd like to hear from some of the others too on some of the missing items. Megan, do you want to chime in on yesterday or today's sessions, please?
I'm sorry, I'm multitasking right now, so I'll chime in a bit, but if someone else wants to go, that'd be great.
Adam, thanks for putting up the list. So Joel, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. This is Joel Berlino. I'm the director at Beartooth RC&D. That's same organization Steve Simonson's with right now. We're here in Joliet in South Central Montana. And, just like everybody said, a lot of the problems that we're seeing in our region it's statewide with affordable housing, obviously a worker shortage. And much to what Julie said is the same here. I feel like over the last 20, 25 years, there were opportunities for some of these communities to come together and work with the state and try and address some of these issues, especially with the extension of infrastructure to certain parts of these communities. But there was generally in some of these communities just an anti-growth culture that has led to a lack of investment in housing. And to some extent, that may still be going on. But again, to what Julie said, I do think a priority also is always going to be trying to find consistent funding sources for economic development in the state. So there isn't so much of a haves and have-nots and urban and rural kind of divides. But they've got a lot of good things here on this, and this is going to be hard to try and come up with some top objectives here. But I think educate legislators before the session is going to be up there. Obviously identifying priorities and action items. and like I said, sustainable funding sources. Those are some things that stand out to me on that list. And going with that also goes the marketing and education pieces, but that's just kind of my take on it.
Thanks for that, Joel. Yeah, I think that again is sort of moving the conversation to exactly where we need it to go right now. You know, knowing what we know, and again, the four of you are living it. You guys are you know, the boots on the ground, hearing from, you know, the public and trying to make strides with government and trying to obtain funding and things like that. So is there, and again, it's not easy as it was said, but we can chip away at it and we can start today. What are some sort of imminently critical things that we feel will help us move in the right direction? I think, you know, my own sort of non-biased outside opinion, the whole education and marketing seems pretty important, to MEDA representatives getting a seat at the table, and having the opportunity to share what they need. So is there something like that? So a priority being, you know, or maybe even a deliverable, like let's have a marketing package, let's generate a plan of communication, things like that. Is there anything that we can come up with now that we feel will be a step in the right direction? Of course, not solving the problem right now, but, you know, slowly getting us to where we need to be.
I guess I'll just say I'm just thinking out loud and thinking of all the positive that can happen here, but also thinking about that the rural has been, I don't know, left out of the conversation for quite some time. And when that happens, it erodes the trust, I think, that we will be included in a meaningful way in a marketing message that is just as important as the urban.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope that that's something that could really happen, because I haven't felt like, you know, really participating in MEDA. I mean, I have very dear friends there and people I value, and some of them are in this room right now, but you know, I think it really takes something for me to want to spend my time trying to do something. I mean, I need to see meaningful stuff out of the box in order to not be the voice that comes back session after session. Even if I'm not heard, I'm still saying my piece, like, hey, this is not helping us. And I don't want to be saying that. I want to be part of the team.
Absolutely. So if I'm maybe interpreting your words, perhaps a priority could be like through the One Montana lens, generating a fully inclusive and representational marketing plan. And then as we potentially explain it to the group, talk about ensuring that, you know, all voices are heard. Does that sort of sum up, Julie, what you're trying to get at?
Yes, Adam, you are very eloquent. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I think that like ties into a few of these, like diversity and, you know, inclusion, and then coming up with like the marketing to get, you know, all those things. Like everybody needs to feel included. Everyone needs to feel like they have a voice, and that's diversity in like every sense of the word, rural and urban, but also like making sure that we're including tribal communities. And
Absolutely. Thanks, Megan. So, I mean, before we go too far, and I did this yesterday, we will need one person to kind of represent the online group. Steve did it yesterday, so I'm maybe looking at you know, the other three here. Do I have any volunteers? Maybe Julie, maybe Megan.
I definitely don't feel good about it, and
Okay.
having been part of this conference for 10 minutes.
Okay, no, fair enough. Megan, can I volunteer you to be?
Oh, I don't want to do it. How about Joel?
Joel, how do you feel?
How do I feel about what, I guess?
Just being the voice of the online group, sort of when it comes time to the group report out, being the representative for us, just to speak through some of the priorities we've discussed.
I probably won't be a good one because I don't know if I'm going to be here. I'm going to be leaving pretty soon.
Okay, Steve, you might have to do it again.
That was quite a process of elimination. Thanks, everybody. No, I'm happy to do that. So, Adam, one of the other things we talked about yesterday was some one-pagers, kind of some talking points on the various aspects, just because we know that legislators and community elected officials are busy. And maybe that fits in, Julie, back to the education and the marketing piece that we'd mentioned as a priority.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. So if let's say we're sticking on the topic of a top priority being that inclusive and representational marketing strategy, then one of the things that can immediately happen is, you know, that really simple, quick strike, one-page documentation that kind of highlights whether it's, you know, each specific issue or something that maybe highlights everything we're trying to focus on. So I think that's a very good, like, top priority marketing. What happens next? Generate some collateral that can be distributed to stakeholders. I like it. So what else? What else are we kind of thinking could be a priority? If number one is that effective and inclusive communication, what else could we focus on?
Did talking about sustainable funding sources, did tax increment finance come up, or is it not drilling down to actual sources?
Julie, there was some discussion, but it was outside of this forum yesterday, and regarding the bill that was passed by the legislators regarding the TIF districts. And of course, that was written, that happened after the Next Gen report draft was, you know, finalized or worked on last fall, going into the legislative session.
Right. Well, thank you. I guess, you know, we have this project here with the Tonics Pharmaceuticals and infrastructure, and trying to figure out how to be what we need to be in a timely fashion for them. It's a, you know, $25 million phase one project for a rural 44,000 person county. We put this tax increment finance districts, several of them in place, you know, kind of hoping that we'd be able to use them. And now here we are using them, and without them, man, we'd sure be up that creek with no paddle. I just wonder if that's anything that rural counties could think more about, and certainly on the education side, since they did mess that up, which would hurt rurals, in my opinion, more than urbans, but it hurts everyone anyway.
Yeah, Julie, it's a good point. I know we've had some discussions within the region about that, the TIF and TED districts, and how the new legislation is going to impact that.
Right. And would you want to create one before you could hopefully get it put back, or else learn that you can't get it put back, so forget it and move forward.
So can we extract a priority there that I mean, you tell me, is it worth taking that a level up in terms of a priority, like something that's maybe a bit more generalized? How can we put that together in terms of perhaps it being like a statewide focus on taxation as a source of funding? Is that, again, this is a little bit outside my expertise, but if we want to generate a priority there, how can we verbalize that?
I think that tax increment, there is a working group of tax people that are engaged in tax increment finance. And those folks, and it's not really taxing, it's so that would light people's hair on fire. But there's that group, and it's so odd because tax increment is such an important part of economic development finance, and yet like almost none of those folks participate in MEDA, and somewhat vice versa. And when you go to the legislative session and you're, trying to defend this one and only resource, economic development frequently is not there in numbers that they would be, for example, if you tried to tamper with the Big Sky Trust Fund or other, of those sun programs that we all value. So I think there's a lot more support and effort to use this in ways that we're not using it, because it definitely can fund economic development, like organizations that are working on it, that administration can come out of that district. So I don't know, that's just me.
No, that's great. If you look at, again, on this shared slide here, we talk about identifying political partners. Nowhere here, I mean, we have sustainable funding sources. That's a bit vague, but perhaps we present this to the team as, identify funding partners, and through that lens, talk about that tax increment group, and just say, like, interfacing with people that are perhaps surprisingly not involved one way or the other. Like, MEDA's not at their table and they're not at ours. Does that sound more in line, again, to avoid the whole taxation thing? But
Yeah, at least it throws the notion out to the group, and if they like it, great. If not, just fine too.
And is there like a clear deliverable, a clear next step we can do in that vein? Like, I don't know, arrange an introduction session with these people. Is there something, not that these people aren't spoken to, or that you don't know them, but could there be something formal that's created or arranged? Or
I think there could. I don't know what formal means, but something like, yeah, we need to get on the same team here.
exactly, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Adam, I see the one pager coming into play here with an education or re-education on the TIF districts, and maybe taking that to House and state level legislators that are involved with taxation policies during this interim part of the session.
Yeah, great. I mean, it seems like a lot of this boils down to education and marketing on from a MEDA perspective, just to kind of, and maybe within MEDA too, like who are our good partners that we can speak to, and how can they learn more about what we do and what we need, and then how we can take that and present a really nicely put together package to decision makers and stakeholders.
I also see it helping our membership for those that may not be comfortable approaching legislators or legislators outside of their respective districts or regions. as a way to engage them and educate.
Absolutely. There was a really good one that I liked in How We Get Ready, I think. Point number 5 here, roadmap of how to influence legislature. And, you know, I see that as even a one-page document just for people who are new or maybe not comfortable, or, you know, I think that that could be helpful and in the same vein of what we're speaking to here.
I like that a lot. I mean, during this last session, one of the eastern counties reached out to Ravalli, you know, different ends of the pole, to try to find out why their legislators weren't paying any attention to what they were saying to them.
Mhm.
And you know, it just turned out that those particular legislators were well known among legislators for, like, I care about this one thing only, don't bother me. You know, so how could our marketing and education sort of put those type legislators a little bit out of the circle of, wow, it's really not popular to be you. Everybody else is over here, and you non-listeners are sort of black sheep.
Right. So that whole inclusion part just coming right back into it. Okay, well, I think we're at time here, unfortunately. So Steve, we're counting on you again here. Are there any last thoughts, last kind of bits that we want to include in our representation here?
Can I just ask a question? Is this policy area 5? Is this list?
No, this list here was you know, through conversation yesterday, we had asked, just there were breakout groups in person and a little online breakout group, and we just asked what sorts of things, you know, based on the next gen report, what sorts of things do we think we feel we need to do to get ready? So
Okay.
what are some action items? So nothing really formal here, just ideas from the collective. And now we're looking to you know, cherry pick some of these and prioritize them to have our best foot forward from now until 2023.
Thank you.
Okay, well, a little bit of logistics. Thanks to everyone for participating. Julie, Joel, Steve, Megan, really appreciate it. Great insights. So I'll close this room. It'll shoot you back to the big room there in Montana, or in Helena rather. And there might be a bit of chaos at first, but I think we're gonna start with our group first. So Steve, I think you have the ability to unmute yourself, and we'll make sure that your broadcast loud and clear into the group. So thanks all once again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the session there.
Thank you.